Hello guys, it's me Tori and welcome back to my channel for another video. Welcome if you are new. Today I'm going to be giving you some tips and tricks on how to build a good starter home in The Sims 4 whilst you watch me build this one sped up a little bit. Because sometimes starter homes are a little bit hard to build and we all need them. You know, you create a sim, you want to play with the sim, and then you think, oh god, I got no money. Today I'm just going to be giving you a few tips and tricks, tips and tricks even, how to build a cute starter home in The Sims 4. So my first piece of advice to you is, do not make the house too big. Right now, to be honest, I probably made the house bigger than it needs to be. This house is literally only for a couple or one sim, but to be honest, it's kind of bigger than it needs to be. It could quite easily fit two. Now, I know, it's like, oh my god, but I want to build a house with lots of room. It's hard to furnish a big house anyway, and then when you are restricted for how much furniture you can have, you're already incredibly restricted on what you can and cannot do. So another thing I would suggest to you when building a starter home, the main thing I would suggest would be to make it smaller than you think, because it's easier to make a smaller house look cute. And also, probably when building a starter home, often they say less is more. Not when building a starter home, at least in my experience. When building a starter home, less is definitely not more, because it looks like sad. It just looks sad, like you have no money, and you don't want it to look like that. So you want it to look like you've just chucked money at it. So a good way to do that is to have different wallpaper on the outside walls, like I've done here. I've got the lighter brown and the darker brown. It hasn't cost me any extra money at all, but it has made my house look more three-dimensional even. It doesn't look like a flat box. So that brings me on to the third tip for when building a starter home. Just because it's a starter home and it's cheap, doesn't mean it has to be a flat rectangle or flat box. Build lots of different rooms coming out from the house. Yes, you're going to create a weird shape, but that's what gives a house character. I mean, it just makes the house look more interesting, and you can create different rooms and section the house off if the shape's weird. Absolutely nobody wants a flat box. You've already got no money, don't have no personality in the house as well. Try and make the house look as detailed as you possibly can with no money. Another thing you could also do, which admittedly I could have done in this house but I did not do, was you can actually make your own rugs with flooring. Yeah, you could have a wooden floor and then decide where you want a so-called rug, I say in air quotes, to be, and then just put like 3 to 4 squares or however many required squares you want of carpet down. So instead of paying out for an extra rug, you're just getting another flooring. Often, carpet is even cheaper than rug flooring, so you're actually saving money. So it's quite a nice tip. Another tip I would recommend with this house is probably think about what you really want to spend the most on. I would say you don't have to have cheap things everywhere. I do have all cheap appliances in this house, and that is because I had to decide, okay, do I want columns or do I want nice appliances? This house is probably slightly more for the cosmetic aspect of it, but if you want your house to be nice and functional, you should probably think to yourself, okay, where would I like to put most of my budget towards? Would I like a fancy kitchen, fancy bathroom? What would you like to put most of your budget towards? And that way you don't actually have to have the cheapest amount of everything. If you want a 20k starter home, you can definitely have maybe a nicer bed if you decide to have cheaper quality counters. Another piece of advice to you would be, just because it's a starter home, don't make it all sad and boring. Okay, see, I put some red sofas in there. That automatically makes the house feel more alive. I see a lot of people when they create starter homes, oftentimes they're pretty generic because, you know, when people create starter homes, they want the homes to appeal to lots of simmers because they want a home that people would be able to download off the gallery, so they don't make them too bright and colourful. But when you're creating your own starter home, you know what you want in this house, and if you create a house that's bright and colourful, it already looks much better and more expensive, and it just makes you want to live there. I feel like those red sofas in the living room just make everything They just pop a little bit and they make things a little bit more happy. Another piece of advice to you would be, just try and do the most with what you can. So basically what I mean is, you don't have to pay for the roofing. Roofing is completely free, which means you can do absolute wonders with roofing. You can choose whatever roof texture you like. There's literally no limits when it comes to roofing. Here's a quick tip for you if you didn't know. When selecting on a roof, if you press the buttons Shift and C, you can actually get slightly advanced roof properties, which I have here, and that's how I managed to make the roofs kind of curved and interesting shaped. So the house would have looked really boring without this, but already by having curved roofing, it looks like I've put more thought and effort into the house, which just makes it look way more interesting. Also, if you're building a house that's not completely base game, a lot of times there's different budgets to the windows and doors, so sometimes you might actually find some windows and doors that are actually a lot cheaper than what you would find in the base game, that look a lot nicer because they were created more recently. Okay, so now you can see me applying my next tip. That is debug landscaping. A lot of simmers do this now when building starter homes. Thankfully, building a starter home is no longer as difficult as it used to be, because they used to look really sad on the outside. People would often decide to devote all of their budget to the inside and then put maybe one tree outside. Now, you don't have to pay for any trees. And don't buy a single tree if you're building a starter home. Don't. For one thing, the debug landscaping items look so much nicer. There is so much range, there is so much variety. As you can see right now, every single piece of landscaping I have outside my house is debug. And guess what? You pay a big fat nothing for it. So just don't buy any landscaping. Who wants to pay for something when you can have it for free? So that's what I'm doing here. I mean, the debug landscaping looks better. Sure, your Sims can walk through the tree, but hey, maybe you want that. Another thing you can do is terrain paint. Once again, terrain paint costs nothing. Absolutely nothing. Terrain paint costs nothing, but it already makes your lot look more dynamic because you can have dirt underneath the plants, so it makes things feel alive and makes it look like you spent time and effort on building the house. And like I said earlier, when building a starter home, more is more. Okay, so touching again on what I said earlier about debug stuff. Get some debug fences. Please don't buy fences when you're doing a starter home. Nobody has money for that. You can get some fences in debug, and they're pretty cute. So you don't have to waste money on that either. Basically, when building a starter home, think about what you really need. What you really need money to spend out on. And to be honest, most of the time, when it comes to cosmetic items, you can find a lot of different ways just to save money just by being creative with stuff. So if you want to access the debug menu, first to access the normal debug menu, you need to do Ctrl-Shift-C on your keyboard and then type bb.showHiddenObjects, and then you do it again and you type bb.showLiveEditObjects, all one word, and then also you want to go in the search menu and type 2 stars. That way you can see the whole debug menu, because when you filter by debug, it doesn't show you the live edit objects, so you're not going to get anywhere. So it's easier just to search for them. And also, if you're on a laptop, I recommend you using an external mouse rather than a touchpad, because it's a nightmare to scroll through on a touchpad. Just don't do it. Save yourself the bother, honestly. Okay, so my last tip I would recommend is kind of weird. I would recommend putting the house on a little foundation. It's currently on a little foundation now, and I know it doesn't feel like a lot, but if you put it on a little foundation, it's separate from the ground so that the house is on a different level, otherwise it feels very flat and very boxy. If you only raise it up by 1, you don't need a step for your Sims to get inside, so you don't have to pay out for stairs, but just having that tiny little bit of height automatically makes the house just kind of pop out from the ground a little bit. That way you can also choose a foundation pattern. And believe me, foundations is another thing that you should go to town on, because you don't need to pay for foundations either. So that's just another thing you can do. Okay, so those were my tips and tricks on how to build better starter homes in The Sims 4. I hope you enjoyed and I hope you found this useful and I hope you like the starter home. Please don't forget to like and comment, subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you found it helpful and I hope you all have an absolutely amazing day and I will see you guys next time. Bye!